press conference where he retired. And you could see, Anthony, in the front row, we could see Lon Trost, the chief operating officer of the Yankees, Hal Steinbrenner. Behind him, Mariano Rivera, Jeter. You could see Cashman behind them, and all the way in the distance, Michael Kay. But it was a very, very select few.
Very emotional day, more than you would have thought, right? You get that feeling?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I kind of felt it was going to be emotional, didn't you? Right? Didn't you?
Yeah.
Because you know, it was a great career with a lot of championships, and we know Jorge Posada. We know he wears his emotions on his sleeves. He was a very emotional baseball player, and without question,
very passionate. Huh?
Yeah, and again, you know, to be, you know, at that press conference was an honor, and we have a very good fortune that on our celebrity hotline we have someone calling in right now, and he was there that day. He was with the press contingent that day, and he's a New York Times best-selling author, and he's also a contributor to YesNetwork.com, and we want to welcome in Jerome Preisler. Jerome, are you with us?
I'm here.
All right. Welcome, welcome.
Hey,
Welcome aboard.
Jerome, hey, here we go. We have you hard at work at your computer, at your typewriter. You have your pencil in hand, diligently working.
That's where I am.
Jerome, we're going to, we're putting these graphics up. We'll send a link to you so you'll be able to see it within a few days. You're a writer by trade, Jerome. Take us inside that press conference. As a writer, we know that you pride yourself. You look more at individuals, and you look for the story inside the story than the possibly the event itself. Take us inside there. Can you share anything with us that maybe we didn't read in the news or the Post?
Well, I think looking back on it, I think what was most illuminated for me was the relationship between Posada and Girardi. And it turned out to be something other than what I thought it had been. It's interesting because late in the season and during the one round of playoffs that the Yanks were in, the author Gabe Talese had been hanging around Yankee Stadium working on an article about Girardi. And he and I had started chatting. And at one point he just asked me what if I had any insights into the relationship between he and Posada. And back then I said, you know, I really don't, you know, I kind of disagree with what you read in the dailies, where, you know, most of the beat guys will talk about how they hate each other, or that's what you see on Twitter. And I said, I really didn't see that. I saw more of, if anything, more of a kind of familial relationship where, you know, you got two brothers who've been together in one capacity or another for 15 years, and you know the relationship changes and friction, you know, friction erupts between them. But I thought there was a clear mutual respect and maybe even affection between the two. And at the press conference, which I heard you talking about, and really was emotional and was done up incredibly well by the Yankees. Even the press credentials were fantastic. You had to get special credentials for that day, and the front of it was an embossed with Jorge Posada, and I think it had an embossed 20 or something embossed, and then in the back of it there was the number 20 on a base on pinstripes. I mean that alone is a collectible. I'm never getting rid of that. But they had the initial, you know, Posada statement. And then they went into the Q&A that you saw on MLB and the YES Network. And then once the cameras were off, they held different sessions for certain groups of the media, print media, foreign press, and so forth. And the first group was the print media, and I kind of do what I always do, which is my thing is to kind of mosey on in to the cluster of reporters and listen in. And Posada and his family had stayed at the podium, and one particular reporter for the Post was standing in front of me, and he asked what I thought was a really astute question. And this guy doesn't always just ask astute questions, but he says I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He goes, Jorge, now that all said and done, your career's over, there's been a lot of speculation about your relationship with Girardi, and now this would be the perfect time to just tell us what it is. And Posada looks up with a completely chill look in his face and says, I had no problem with him. And here I'm paraphrasing just slightly, but it was, he did what higher-ups told him to do. And that said it all. I mean, here, and I think there was a follow-up which really tried to pull what was the answer to what was, the obvious meaning of the question, which was, what was your relationship over the years? Give us some information. And I think everybody was, or anybody who was standing there was expecting, we had our ups, we had our downs, blah blah blah, talking about when Posada was his understudy and so on, to the point where Girardi was a bench coach and a manager. But instead you get this one chill answer, and he doesn't really say his name, and he doesn't say the name of the higher up, and everybody kind of knows it's Brian Cashman. And and what he was clearly referring to was one or two, or both of two situations. One, I think, was the day in May, that infamous day when he was Posada was bumped down to ninth in the lineup and sat out the game, and it was a Red Sox Yankees game. Beckett, CC, and everything went crazy at Yankee Stadium. And I think the other thing that even goes before and beyond that was that Posada strongly was disappointed and hurt by not having the chance to compete for his job in spring training last year. I think he could have accepted the losing the catcher's position and becoming DH, but I think that the demotion really hurt him, and he mentioned it twice during that press conference when asked.
I remember him saying that.
I think, and just to add one quick thing, the interesting part about the whole thing is that 10, 15 minutes later, there were individual interviews where you had Jeter standing in one place, Girardi in another, Mariano in another, and Girardi was asked the same question: what was your relationship with Posada? By a different guy. And he went on to say, look, there are always these bumps, blah, 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 but, I really love the guy, which he said many times. And, he's a great player and so on. And I don't think Girardi is lying about that. I think he does have a real strong affection for the guy. I just think that Girardi, that there's a real personality difference. But anyway, that to me was just really interesting. Was that here you have Posada, and he has nothing in him for I think for Girardi or Cashman, and then you have Girardi, and there is still, I think, that affection for Posada. So I found that to be really interesting.
Well, you were right there, so thank you for that insight as far as that goes.
Interesting.
Jerome, when we introduced you, we mentioned that you're a New York Times best-selling author. If we can go over to I'm going to move ahead to graphic number 19, if we will, and we are going to move over to a Tom Clancy 0-hour book cover, because you write about military science, you write about espionage that goes along with it. You wrote a number of books in the Tom Clancy Power Play series. Jerome, you've sold millions of copies in the U.S. and overseas. Can you just tell us briefly why that genre and how you got